Story-1. That's life. Maddie, honey, I'm your best friend. I love you to death, but I think you're crazy if you want to cheat on him. Jackson is the sweetest man I know. Laurel Richland was clearly annoyed. Damn it, Lori, if you would just listen to me for a minute. For her part, Maddie was frustrated that Lori couldn't see how this would strengthen her and Jack's marriage. And the best part was that if her plan worked, Jack would be so fat, dumb, and happy that he wouldn't pester her about having kids anymore. Madison Meridian didn't want kids, and her husband desperately did. It wouldn't be cheating, girlfriend, because he'd know about it and he'd get you. He thinks you're hot. Honey, I think you need therapy, but we're friends. If sex with your husband is the price I have to pay to support you, well, I guess I can live with that. But seriously, I'll be there to tell you, I told you so when it blows up in your face. I have a better idea. We could have a threesome. Oh, don't. Madison waved it away. I know what I'm doing, and I know my husband better than you do. Just remember, be at my house at 8 o'clock sharp. She didn't see Lori shake her head incredulously. That same night at Meridian's house. You're out of your mind. Jackson stared wildly at his obviously deranged wife. Let's see if I've got this right. You have a boyfriend who gives you something I can't. Do you really have to be so rude? Yes. Saliva was flying out of his mouth. So, for my understanding of your need to expand your horizons, in return we're going to open up our marriage. Jack, that's just disgusting. We're not opening up our marriage at all. You know we don't live in a trailer park. We're strengthening our marriage, and for your understanding, you get Lori, and I get Shell to heal me. It's a mutual victory. Madison couldn't understand why this concept was so difficult for everyone to grasp. She quickly glanced at her watch. It was 2 minutes to 8. I have to go, Jack. I promise you I'll be back later, and trust me, it'll be great for us. She practically flew out the door. Jack was in a state of shock and froze in place when he heard a knock. He slowly opened the door. There stood Lori. He started to say something, but Lori quickly raised her hand and walked past him. Damn, she really looks good. Don't say a word, Jack. Just listen to me. We can both agree that your wife should be institutionalized, but I have to tell you. She paused to take a deep breath and gather her wits. She slowly closed her eyes and let her dress fall to the floor, and there she stood, naked as the day she was born. Take off your pants, Jack, and lead me to the bedroom, and I'll explain my position, she offered hoarsely. 5 months later, Madison was waiting for her friend at the local Starbucks. Lori was late again. When she arrived, Maddie had to admit that Lori had never looked better, even though she'd put on a few pounds. I told you things would turn out for the best. I knew what I was talking about, so admit you were wrong. Just as Lori was about to respond, they were interrupted. Madison Meridian, you have been served. The older gentleman handed her a large envelope and left. She opened it. Divorce? He's divorcing me? Maddie began to breathe rapidly. She didn't immediately notice Lori standing next to her with a big smile on her face. Maddie, have I ever told you how much I want kids? You bitch! Oh no, that's not going to happen. I'm going to fight you both with every penny I have. Oh, grow up, Maddie. This is the 21st century. When it comes to divorce, no one gives a shit what you want. Lori floated out of the coffee shop. A sniffling Madison called Shell. Shell, he's divorcing me. Now we can be together. What? You're married. You have 3 kids. You're a fucking asshole. Story-2. Reality. 44-year-old Grady Gallup walked tiredly up the cracked concrete steps of his home. Another week of hell at the job he hated was finally over. It was a pleasant late spring Friday evening in Alamogordo, New Mexico. Alamogordo was a small town of about 10,000 people. Grady was a military contractor at nearby Holloman Air Force Base. Alamogordo's claim to fame is that it was the epicenter of the end of the world. Now only Grady and his wife Magdalena were there. All 3 children had grown up and left their small town as fast as they could. As soon as he stepped over the threshold of his home, an atomic bomb exploded in his head, shaking him to the core. Oh my God, yes! She was practically growling. Whatever it was, he had never heard Maggie scream like that before. Grady looked at his watch, an old military habit. Hell, it was 6:30. He hadn't even gotten home early and she was sleeping with someone upstairs? He froze in place. How the hell am I supposed to act? Somehow yelling, "Honey, I'm home," seemed out of place. It got quiet for a moment, and then, "Oh, baby, this was the 5th time for me, and it was the best. God, I love you." Maybe she's playing with a giant vibrator. That's it. That's the one I have to see. Grady was shocked at the sight of a child, probably younger than their oldest, in a sweaty, naked embrace after intercourse on their bed with his wife. Maggie looked at her watch. "Oh shit, honey, you have to get out of here right now. I've lost track of time, and hubby will be home any minute. Now go." "It's too late, I'm already home." Grady was unfazed. Two things happened at once. Maggie fainted, and the baby cried. "What the fuck? You're man enough to have another man's wife in the family bed, and when you get caught, you cry? Today's younger generation is a waste of time." "Just leave, son, now. Wait, how old are you anyway?" 19, sir." Grady just shook his head and sighed. "Anyway, thank goodness for that at least." "Go on." He pointed to the door. The guy grabbed his clothes and was gone in a flash. Grady went downstairs, grabbed a beer, and sipped it slowly at the kitchen table, waiting for his wife to come to her senses. 10 minutes later, his wife, dressed only in a robe, sat down next to him. She gently held out her hand. "Grady, honey, I'm sorry you saw that." "But you don't regret fucking him?" "Why, Maggie?" "Look, honey, it doesn't mean anything, baby. All he's got is that he works for hours. It's just a purely physical thing, and we only do it once a week. He gets me where you can't. You understand, right? I love you to death, honey. Our family is the most important thing to me forever. Do you understand?" Grady stared at Maggie incomprehensibly. It was making her nervous. "Say something, baby." "Actually, Maggie, I do understand. I'm going to sleep in Anthony's old room. Good night." And Grady went upstairs without looking at Maggie. Maggie left early Saturday morning for her usual golf date with the ladies. But before she left, she had thoroughly cleaned up the master bedroom. She didn't want to rub it in Grady's face. When she got home, she put her clubs in the hall closet and was about to call out to Grady when she heard strange noises coming from upstairs. "Oh yeah, Grady, baby, take me harder. Oh my God, that feels so good." When Maggie peeked into their bedroom, her husband was there, pouncing doggy-style on the barely aged petite blonde. She had large, firm breasts that swiveled wildly as Grady thrust violently into her from behind, sweat streaming down his contorted face. "What the fuck, Grady?" Without stopping, Grady looked up. "Oh, hey, sweetheart. Look, this doesn't mean anything. I mean, if you could shrink your vagina, I wouldn't need it at all. You understand me, right? Story hash 3 OP. Eugene Medford was not a happy man. In fact, he was furious and could barely contain his anger. He paced around the room furiously, rereading the private investigator's report he had just received. Fortunately, his 2 teenage daughters were not home this Thursday night. His wife, his only source of joy, was presumably on her usual bachelorette party. But as the report he'd read confirmed what he'd long suspected, Ashland was actually at the Starlight Motel with her shitty lover Donald Gresham. Various plans for revenge ran through his head as he drank his 4th glass of scotch. He was feeling the consequences, but he wasn't drunk yet, at least not drunk enough not to kill both of these assholes with his bare hands. Emotion took over and he threw his glass at the fireplace, the glass shattering into 1,000 shards. It sounded like a gunshot. Bastards! There was a knock on the door. It was actually a loud knock. "Police, open up!" Eugene was angry enough as it was, and he needed someone to vent his anger on, and the police would be a good target. Some traffic cop wrote him a ticket tonight right around the corner of his house. He claimed that Eugene had failed to come to a complete stop. "This is just what I need." He walked over, swung open the front door, and was about ready to tell those cops everything on his mind when he realized he was looking at 3 barrels pointed straight at his heart. What the hell does that mean? Oh, shit. The next thing Eugene realized was that he was lying on the floor. "Let me up, you bastards. I didn't do anything." When the dust settled, he was sitting on the couch rubbing his sore wrists, but the officers apologized for their actions because they thought they heard a gunshot. There were 2 men in uniform, and Detective Sergeant Mitchell Springfield in his old, crumpled polyester suit that he had apparently bought at 3-day suits. "Mr. Medford, do you know Donald Gresham?" "Yeah, he's a piece of shit who has my wife." Detective Springfield was surprised that Medford admitted to knowing Gresham. Well, Mr. Gresham was killed about an hour ago, leaving a motel room with your wife. Too bad. I thought only the good ones died young. Did whoever did this kill my wife, too? Please tell me the answer is yes. Eugene smiled at the detective. It's no laughing matter, Mr. Medford. You're the prime suspect in his murder. Where were you an hour ago? One of your asshole traffic cops was writing me a ticket on the street. Now get out of my house. Look, Mr. Medford, we're just doing our job. Surely you realize that when a wife's lover is murdered, the husband is certainly a suspect? Well, but isn't that true for all the husbands whose wives the bastard slept with? Well, yes. I'm sure you're right, replied a flabbergasted Detective Springfield. Well, Detective Mitchell Springfield, your wife Victoria, residing at 123 Ashland Avenue, you must be a suspect because Gresham had your wife, too. Eugene tossed a photograph that clearly showed Springfield's wife sleeping with Gresham in a bed that the detective thought was his exclusive. Springfield stared at the photograph, turned green, and vomited right onto the carpet in Eugene's living room. He slumped to the floor in a daze. The two uniformed police officers didn't know what to do and just stood there with their mouths open in shock. By the way, where is my loving wife? Springfield didn't react. One of the policemen spoke up. She's in our patrol car, waiting to get some of her things safely away. She's going to be staying at her parents' house for a while. Maybe it would be better if we just take her there now. Eugene nodded. That's definitely a good idea. Why don't you help the detective to his feet and take him outside? Don't bother. I'll clean up the mess. And he let them go with a wave of his hand. They helped the half-comatose Springfield to his feet and out the door. Medford closed it behind them. Phew, I guess getting that fine was lucky for me after all. He started looking for some rags, whistling to himself.